before then, please write it down because I am taking this up from you. Okay? All right, the title of our story is Michael and the Bully, so you should have that plot diagram for Michael and the Bully. The actual name of the TV episode that we watched is called the Lunch Money Ripoff, but I didn't like that, so I changed it to Michael and the Bully. So make sure you have that up there. A lot of times students make a mistake when they put their name up there. Nope, your name goes at the bottom where it asks for it. So we're going to complete the plot diagram, summarizing this story. We always start with the exposition. Who is the protagonist of this story?
Eddie.
All right, some people put Eddie. Is that okay?
Yeah.
There are other options for the protagonist. Now, in a short story, you're not going to have a lot of options, but this was a TV show that we were watching, and I told y'all that movies and TV shows don't follow the exact formula for short stories. So if you have something different for protagonists, it's okay, and we can talk about that in a minute. But for now, let's put Eddie. Eddie is the protagonist. The protagonist is, somebody define it for me. Protagonist is what? The main character in the story that makes some type of change in their thinking, which leads to a change in their behavior. If Eddie is the protagonist, who is the antagonist?
Michael.
Okay, some people put Michael. Did anybody put anything else? Yes.
James.
All right, some people may have put James, and that's okay. If you put James, come in. Well, can somebody get that, please? That's okay if you put James. I'm going to put Michael for the purpose of our sheet because the antagonist, the definition of a true antagonist is the one of the main characters in the story who stays the same. They do not make a significant change in their behavior, right? And if you think about it, James did kind of change his behavior, change his thinking. So you might want to think about whether you want to put James. If you did, it's okay, but just think about that. So antagonist, I'm going to put Michael. I'm going to give you a, the baby who just came in, I'm going to give you, come get this sheet so you can fill this out. That's why I bring it to you. Pass that back, please. And then you're just copying down what we put on the board. All right, so protagonist is Eddie, antagonist is Michael. I gave you guys the setting. What's the setting?
The weekend.
Yep, the weekend or daytime. And where's the place? Chicago, inner city. Some people might say that they live in the ghetto. That's kind of the whole theme of the story. It's a poor family in the 1970s who lived in the ghetto in Chicago. They don't have a lot of money. Every episode is about them struggling with money and how they make it in the ghetto. So Chicago is the place. And then the time, we could put the weekend or daytime. We would say weekend because Eddie came to stay with them for the whole weekend. Anytime you're looking at the internal and external conflict, you're looking at it from the protagonist's point of view. So what would be Eddie's, first of all, what would be his external conflict? External conflict is obvious. External, think about the external. What's the thing that we see? He's bullying who? Michael, because he needs money for lunch. All right, so his external conflict is between him and Michael. So that's what? Man versus supernatural? Man versus nature? Man versus man. External, man v man. Man versus man. Michael has the money that Eddie wants. Michael has the food that Eddie wants. Michael got a lot of things that Eddie wants. Now, think about his internal conflict. I told you guys, I don't know if I told you guys, but Eddie is a very similar character to Roger in the story Thank You, Ma'am. They have the same internal conflict. So let's talk about Eddie for a minute. How many people sleep in the bed with Eddie? 5 people. There's 6 of them who share one bed. Did Eddie need permission from his mom to spend the weekend? No, because he says what? He says sometimes she don't come home for a few days. He don't know where she at. Eddie was surprised to see James in the house. He was like, you got a living father? So that means what? Eddie does not have a living father. He might not even know who his dad is. So he's coming from a single family home. He doesn't know where his mom is. There's 6 of them sleeping in the bed. And we know that Eddie is hungry because he's stealing Michael's money. All right? And he's accustomed to police dealing with him because when he came out of the bedroom, remember he put himself up against the wall and told JJ to frisk him? Well, I've never been frisked in my life. I don't deal with police like that. So I don't know. I wouldn't know anything about that. So let's say that he's used to kind of crime and criminal activity. So Eddie's internal conflict. He's not what? He's not being taken care of. Eddie is neglected. Eddie doesn't feel loved. All right? So internal conflict. He's dealing with neglect. You can put he's neglected. He doesn't feel loved. He's not being taken care of. Anything like that. Eddie's not coming from a great home because he's dealing with a whole lot of different things. This is the part I needed you guys to take note. Yes. Oh, I'm sorry. Does everybody else have one? Everybody needs one. Because I will take this up at the end. Easy 100. Yes. This is the part I needed y'all to really take notes on. Because, like I said, we were watching a TV show and you wouldn't have had access to the show while you were completing this. So, let's talk about the rising action. At the beginning of the show, Michael comes out, or Florida yells for Michael, come on, you gotta go to school. Michael comes out of the bathroom. She sends him on his way, right? Then what happens?
Eddie stops Michael.
Eddie stops Michael in the elevator and does what?
Takes his quarter and money.
Yep, so Eddie robs Michael in the elevator. All right, Eddie robs Michael in the elevator. So we realize that this is something that has been going on for a while because they know each other. And Eddie was like, come on, man, you got to stop doing this. And, they go back and forth. And then Eddie tells him tomorrow the price goes up to 35 cents or something like that. So we know this is something that has been going on for a while. It switches back to the living room where the dad comes in to help her pick up the button off the floor. The kids come out of the bedroom arguing, so we're getting to know the family, right? We're introduced to Florida and James and Thelma and JJ. They start talking about food. James goes in the refrigerator to look for his chicken leg or something. So all of them kind of realize that what's been happening. Food has been disappearing, and food has been disappearing. They all talk, and they kind of realize that it's been Michael. So food, let's see, food disappears because Michael is eating all of it. If you want to write that a better way, that's fine. That's the best I could do, though. Food is disappearing. They realize Michael is eating it. Michael comes home. Florida said, Michael, did you eat the apple that I put in your lunch? And he was like, yeah, Mom. And she was like, Michael, I ain't put an apple in your lunchbox in 2 weeks. So then he admits to being bullied. Michael admits to being bullied. Let me stop for a second and jump to the climax. We still got a couple of things to write right here. But I want us to agree on what the climax is, because I gave you guys 2 different choices for the climax. One of them could have been when Michael brought Eddie home. The second one was what? When James spanks him, right? So what do we want to say is the climax? Okay, how many people want to say when he comes home? 4. And how many people want to say the spanking? Okay, spanking wins. So let me put this right here, and then I'm going to come back to the notes. So James spanks Eddie. The reason I had to jump to the climax is because what we decide is the climax will determine the notes we put here. If we had said when Michael brings him home, then we wouldn't have had to put anything else right here. But since we said James spanks Eddie, it's a bunch of stuff we got to put here. So, Michael admits to being bullied, and what does the family tell him to do?
Fight him up.
James tells him, you got to fight back. Florida doesn't want that. Oh, he's just a baby. James like, look, we live in the ghetto. We in the hood. He's 12 years old. He got to learn how to defend himself. So, James tells Michael to fight. James tells Michael to fight. The next day he comes home. Well, he's late coming home from school. Florida is really worried. She thinks he's laying in the gutter somewhere. Michael comes home and he brings Eddie, right? So let's put that. Michael brings Eddie home. James is very mad about that. James don't want the bum or the hoodlum in his house, like he calls him. So we can see there's a lot of tension between James and Eddie. That's why it's okay if you say that James is the antagonist. All right, so Michael brings Eddie home. James and Eddie have a bunch of tension because Eddie's not what? Eddie's he doesn't want to study with Michael. He's eating all the food. He don't want to pray. So Eddie is being disobedient. Eddie disobeys the rules of the house. Eddie disobeys the rules of the house. And then James whips him up real good. My favorite part of this show is after Eddie goes in the room with James and Eddie tries to run out. Did y'all see that? And James jerks him back. When he comes back out, did y'all notice his shirt was all torn up? He had a big old tear in his shirt. So Eddie got spanked real good. So the climax, when the problem is as bad as it can get, the highest point of tension is when James spanks Eddie, because it was building the whole show. As soon as Michael told James he was being bullied, James said, "I'll kill him." So he was talking trash about Eddie the whole time. Eddie came home, him and James going back and forth. So that was building up to the highest point of tension. James spanks Eddie. Now let's look at the fall in action. What happens next? He got the Big Mac, right? He got the worst spanking, couldn't sit down. So after that, he agrees to study. Yes. Eddie starts following the rules. Eddie agrees to study. And then the big part comes when Eddie is about to leave. He was like, you know what? Before he even agrees to study, he's about to leave. He was like, I don't have to stay around here, whatever. But James says, well, Eddie, maybe it's because I do care about you a little. All right, so resolution. The family admits to caring about Eddie. And this is a big deal for Eddie because Eddie doesn't feel loved. He doesn't feel taken care of. Nobody at his house. 6 people in the bed. He's hungry, right? So family admits to caring about Eddie. He agrees to study. And then what's our resolution? Eddie realizes what?
That there's people who actually care for him.
That he belongs. That there are people who actually care about him. For no other reason than because he's a human being. He didn't do anything for them to even care about him, right? But just because he's a human being in the house with them, Eddie realizes people care. And I'm going to put he belongs, because whoever said that was a good one. And he belongs. Because remember at the beginning when Michael said everybody makes fun of Eddie, even the teacher? Because he's older. He probably skipped 2 grades. I think there's in the 6th grade, but Eddie is definitely much older. So he says even the teacher makes fun of him. So Eddie doesn't feel like he belongs anywhere. The resolution, because the conflict was neglect. Conflict was man versus man, neglect. Now Eddie realizes Michael cares about him. James cares about him. He got a whole family that cares. Eddie's problem is very similar to Roger's problem. Roger didn't feel loved. He didn't feel cared about. Miss Jones took care of him. And now he realizes that people love him. Now you got to come up with the theme. The theme of this could be very similar to the theme of Thank You, Ma'am. When you're ready to tell me, just go ahead and say it. Always.
Keep an open mind because you don't know someone's situation.
Always keep an open mind. You never know someone's situation. Very good, Matthew. That's similar to the Roger theme. Treat everybody with kindness because you never know what they're going through. So always keep an open mind. Yours doesn't have to be exactly like this. You can write what you want, always key. You never know what people are going through. Okay, I had 2 sentences for my theme, and that's perfectly fine. It's okay if yours looks a little bit different. If you have a different climax, it's okay. Just as long as you follow the map and you summarize the story. I can see why somebody said that James would be the antagonist because it was James and Eddie who were bumping heads, who opposed each other. But James did make a significant change in the story too. So I think about whether you want to put him as the antagonist. If James changed, that might make him one of the protagonists in the story. Because in TV shows, you definitely can have more than one person who fit the script as a protagonist or antagonist. Because remember in the movie Black Panther, we had 2 antagonists that were going against T'Challa. We had Killmonger and we had Claw. If you remember Claw at the beginning of the movie. Yep. Any questions about this? I'm going to take it up in a few minutes, give you a chance to write down any final notes. This is an easy 100 grade for you, darlings.